Welcome to D Space Pride, a gay Star Trek podcast. Today we are doing double duty. We'll be reviewing two episodes. Episode 9 of Strange New Worlds, All Those Who Wander, and episode 10, the season finale, Equality of Mercy. Thanks for joining us.
Hey, Johnson.
How are you?
I am good. It's the 4th of July.
Yes. Happy Independence Day?
Sure. Yeah. We'll go with
Yes.
Happy Independence Day.
Yeah.
Personally, I think America should be sent to its room without dinner and
just
have
collectively
to think about what it's collectively thinking about, what it's done wrong. But yes, Happy Independence Day.
Yes. I mean, at least we did get the day off. So, and you have most of this week off, right?
I have this week off. This is
this entire week. Fuck you, man.
Entire week. I know.
Very lucky.
Yeah.
You're not really
I
working that many days in July.
I am not. I worked Monday and Friday and Sunday, and which is yesterday, and then last Friday and the 1st, and yesterday the 3rd, and then
and then
I'm
you're done
until the 11th, and
so
I work 2 days.
Are you in vacation mode already?
No, I think this holiday screwed it up a little bit because it's just a weird day.
Wait, what do you mean?
No, it's just a weird day because everybody's off. Like the city is quiet. Like it's a different vibe in the city on a holiday.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a lot quieter, and which is totally fine. I don't mind that at all. I mean, that's fine. Please, anytime that the city is quieter, I'll take it.
But why should that affect you from being in vacation mode?
I don't know, maybe because I worked yesterday, so maybe I'm kind of confused as to I worked yesterday, so today is Saturday. I don't know.
Okay.
In my mind, I don't know. It's different for some reason. Yeah.
Well,
so
you can't really complain.
I'm not complaining. It's nice to have a week off that does not come out of my PTO, so I'm super pumped about that. And it has been a long year, so for work reasons, so to have this as a nice benefit is I'll take it.
Yeah. Meanwhile, I've maxed out my vacation days and I'm no longer accruing because I haven't been taking them.
So you need to take them.
I understand. Yeah, I'm actually pretty bad about taking my vacation days. So no longer accruing. I don't know. I'm gonna try to take a couple days later on.
That means you've accrued 240 hours of PTO.
So I get 25 days a year, but in terms of accruing and how much you can store at one time, it's 20 days. I get 25 total. It's just that at any time I can only bank. It's 20. It's 190 hours, something like that. So yes, I'm no longer accruing, which is unfortunate, but.
Yes,
I'll take
that should be a warning to all that you should take your vacation days, else they stop accruing.
Yes. So that's where we are. I'm planning to take a couple of days later on in July, and hopefully I'll start to accrue again. So we'll see.
Yes. Why don't you just not work Fridays for the month?
Well, we get summer Fridays actually.
Oh,
so
okay.
It's half days. So it's kind of might as well. But I don't know. We'll see. I'm going to take a couple days toward the end of July just to see my mom or something like that. Whatever.
Good.
It'll be fine.
Good. Yes.
Yeah. So we are going to be doing a marathon of recordings today, but obviously that's not going to really affect our listeners and their listening schedule. But today we will be recording 2-3 episodes, I believe. And then this week, so everything's also out of order. Because by the time that our listeners listen to this episode, they will have heard our interview with Will Wheaton.
And if not, they should go back and listen to that right away.
Correct.
That was a lot of fun.
Yes, because we'll be releasing this episode, the one that everyone's listening to right this second. I'm like, pointing for emphasis, but no one can see that.
You are.
Other than you.
Yes.
This episode will be released the week of July 11th, which is very far in the future. That's like a week in the future or a week in the future for us.
Yes, it is. It's a long time away, and yes,
correct. And I will be in London, and you will be, by the time this episode releases, you and Dennis are flying out to Asia. So
yes, we will be in Asia by then, I think.
Yes. It's kind of weird.
Yes. So
yes. And the only reason we can do this episode is thank you to Paramount for sending us screeners. So we were able to watch the season 1 finale, Stranger Worlds, in advance. And so we'll be talking about 2 episodes today. We'll try to not keep it extraneously long, but at the same time, there's a lot to talk about. So we'll see how far we get.
Yes. Well, we should get right into it then.
Yeah. Well, before we dive in, is there any Star Trek news to talk about? Not really, right?
No, there isn't. So we have no Star Trek news. We have no idea what's coming up after this coming Thursday, or after everyone watches the finale. We have no Star Trek for who knows how long.
Right.
So for the first time in, what is it now? A year? Almost a year?
It's been 11
a while.
Months. Mm-hmm.
11 months. Didn't it kick off last summer with Lower Deck season 2? And we just
I'm not keeping track, Mike. I don't know.
Anyway, so we've run the well dry. We're going back to the olden times where there was not Star Trek every week.
Yeah. But it's okay, because honestly, there's a lot of other things to watch and talk about. So it's fine.
Which we're going to do a whole nother episode on. So
yes, I'm actually very excited for our off topic, because we haven't done a deep dive into off topic recently. And there's a lot of great content out there other than Star Trek that we've
touched on it, and we've touched on it. Yes, because our enthusiasm has bubbled over. Yeah, it's like there's so much other good shit out there, So there is, and we're not going to spoil any of it, but we are going to highly recommend some choices and what you can watch during this time of no Star Trek.
Well, we can spoil a little bit, but obviously we'll give spoiler warnings for people. So
yes.
Not spoil extensively, but I do think, for example, I feel we need to talk a little bit about Obi-Wan Kenobi, which I finally finished. And
finally. Okay, yes, we should.
The last couple of episodes.
One of my choices for the off topic.
Yes.
Okay, well,
okay, but that's a separate episode. We're fine. We have 2 of us to talk about right now, so it's fine. So why don't we get into it? Unless you had anything else, Mike.
No, let's just get into this.
All right, great. All right, so first off, we have All Those Who Wander, episode 9 of Stranger Worlds, which we did talk a little bit about last week, but let's just start fresh this week.
Emery, you don't have to do this.
But, Captain, my sacrifice saved the lives of those I care most about. For me, there is no other choice.
A logical conclusion.
Live long and prosper, my friend.
No, we can help you. You have to let us try.
Uhura. I want to leave you with one last piece of advice. Open yourself. Make a home for yourself amongst others, and you will find joy more often than sadness.
Hammer, please.
Do not weep for me. I've had a good life. It's time for me to go.
yeah, we did comment on the death of a major character, Hammer,
Yes.
which gets sadder and sadder the more I think about this. But
Yeah.
yeah, so we have that. We have the return of the Gorn, which we knew was going to happen.
Yes. We got
Well, we sort
plenty
of-
of
it was-
hints that was going to happen.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, and in this case, it actually gives a lot of context to what what is it? What kind of planet do they have? Like a seeding planet that the Gorn have?
Breeding planet.
Breeding planet. So yes. Yeah, I can't imagine what a breeding planet it can be like, because honestly, like Gorn fighting with other Gorn for dominance, like how does that all work on a breeding planet?
I
Like,
don't know. I think that, I mean, okay, so why don't we take a step back and just talk about the episode as a whole, and then we can kind of get into some of the logistical elements of this episode.
sure.
Mike, what was your, and by the way, in case our listeners are wondering, we've basically abandoned the format where we're going to do a synopsis because Mike thought that it was too much. So it's fine. So we'll kind of just talk main themes and main takeaways and anything that we want to talk about. And then we'll kind of just meander around the episode. In any case, Mike, what were your overall thoughts on this episode?
I enjoyed this episode a lot. I thought this was great. I mean, it's just another strong episode. I thought it was really interesting to see. Again, we're kind of so we've seen several themes throughout the season, right? We've seen the Gorn and La'an's journey with that.
Love La'an. Do you like her more now?
I am getting to like her more. Yes.
Okay, great.
Yes, and I think
She's
your
growing on
Kira
you.
comparison. Yes, I
Like a
think your
fungus.
yes, as long as it's not growing in me like a Gorn. Baby. No, I think your comparison to Kira helped, and Kira has been one of my favorite characters in Star Trek.
And
actually,
not to spoil it, but in the finale, we get a glimpse of what La'an is going to be like in 7 years or something like that. And obviously that timeline is like, whatever, but she's much warmer. She's hugging. She seems more lighthearted, and I feel that they're setting us up for La'an to kind of take us on a journey where she comes to terms with her darkness and her trauma, and she is able to embrace being a joyful person. So I feel we're kind of on that path, but anyway.
Yeah, I mean, but it makes me wonder, not to jump ahead to 110, but it makes me wonder, obviously at the end of this episode. So now we have to jump to the end of the episode to kind of give some context. So at the end of the episode, La'an decides to leave Starfleet to help this girl who
temporarily. It's not like she's not resigning her commission. She said that if you need me to, I can.
Yeah, she's taking a leave of absence. Correct. Essentially
sabbatical
to help the child they find on the abandoned ship, which I cannot remember the name of the ship, but anyway, it's like a mini Constitution class starship.
The Peregrine or something, right?
Oh, the Peregrine. Yes, I think so.
Yes.
So she's helping, and she has to go out into like uncharted non-Federation space to help find this girl's family and return her to her family. So she essentially leaves at the end of 109, leaves the Enterprise, and yeah, that was surprising. That was really surprising and kind of sad. I was kind of sad about that. I mean, after losing Hammer and to lose La'an, I was like, wow.
But she's gonna come back. Yeah. Like, she's not off the show. We know she's gonna come back in season 2.
No. But this is what I'm getting there. I'm getting there. So 110 gives us a glimpse of what she's like at the future, and she happens to be on the other starship that's in the episode. But that other starship and its commander are have been rumored to be part of season 2.
I feel we can talk about. We're talking about both episodes in the same recording, so
True,
we can
true,
talk
yeah.
about
I mean,
the Farragut
yes.
and Kirk
and
and
Kirk, yes.
Yes.
So yeah, we should really back up and put a special warning at the
Well,
beginning.
by the time that everyone is listening to this episode, it's gonna be a week after the finale.
Yes, okay, fair enough. So we have Kirk and Lon on the Farragut in the future. And
Right.
so, at some point she transfers to the Farragut, whatever that means. So, and we also had hints. Remember, we also had hints when they announced Paul Wesley coming on as playing James T. Kirk. There were set reports, quote unquote, that showed Lon and Kirk together.
Yes.
And Kirk together.
Right.
So
right.
I'm concerned. I have some concerns that Lon may return to Starfleet, but she may not be back on the Enterprise.
But the thing is, this future is also kind of ambiguous because in this future, Una has also been sent into a penal colony. So we know that number one, it's not going to be stuck in a penal colony for 7 years, so we know that that's going to change somehow.
Well, we don't know what's up with. That's the other thing about the finale is we have no idea. Once again, we lose a commanding officer,
right? But I'm saying, okay,
season finale.
Rebecca Romaine is on the show. She's not stuck in the penal colony for the rest of the show. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
So,
I assume we do assume that they will be getting her back at some point.
Right.
Yes.
So in that case, the future is already changed. I mean, Milan will be back on at the Enterprise because of that. Because if the future was static, then Una would be no longer on the show. Like she would be stuck there.
Right. Yes. Okay. Fair enough. Yeah. I mean, it's hard to get this once you throw a time crystal and all this stuff in the middle of it, like shit goes wacky. So I mean,
sure.
It's all very confusing. But anyway, so yeah, I mean, so
going back to this episode, you liked it.
By the end of 109, all those who wander, like they're
wandering in the wilderness.
All those who wander.
Yeah, which I think is really referring to Uhura and her journey. Blah, blah.
Yes. Getting back to that, to lose both Hemmer and La'an and also Uhura, technically, because she's scheduled to leave the ship. Like what kind of crew are we gonna have in season 2? I mean, half the crew is dead or left.
I was unclear about that. So I was unclear because yes, we're told that Uhura, her rotation's over. But I feel by the end of the episode, we almost kind of get a sense that if she wants a post on the Enterprise, it's hers. I'm not quite sure how that's gonna look. But I mean, based upon what the first scene that we get in this episode, she and the girl who dies, the other intern, their time on the Enterprise has come to some sort of end, and I don't know if they go back to the Academy. That I don't recall exactly what is next for them, but TBD.
Right, we don't know. Yeah, so it just feels like by the end of 109, I feel very unsettled.
Right, and 110 doesn't help us. 110 it doesn't really
110 does
resolve
not
anything.
Help at all.
Right.
No, it does not.
Right.
So yes, I feel very unsettled about the crew of the Enterprise under Pike by the end of season 1, and I feel for him. I mean, I feel for him. So yeah, so there's that. But this is a proper monster story. Like it's sort of it's got obviously it's got the feel really of Alien.
Oh
right?
my God. Yes. But almost like too much. It's almost a little like you have like a new girl character who looks she looks like Newt. Like she looks like she's dirty.
She does,
her hair is like frazzled.
Yeah.
She literally looks like Newt, which doesn't help.
Yes.
And it's one thing to kind of have an homage, and another thing, it's almost ripping it off. Because literally the way that the Gorn come out, it's very much like the Chestbusters. It was a little too on the nose in terms of the reference to Alien, like it a little too close. Like when we're talking about the submarine episode, whose name escapes me because it's like Latin or something. It's not English. Memento Mori, is that what it was?
Oh yes.
Okay, thank you. So that one was at least, it's kind of like a submarine movie, you know, like it's a little bit like Hunt for Red October or Crimson Tide.
Yes.
This is literally like, it's legit like ripping off Alien, you know, and I'm like, well, like including the like, you know, the acid saliva or, you know, whatever, and like obviously they have some of their own twists, but I'm kind of like, all right, it's a little too on the nose. And a little bit of Predator with the thermal vision too. Like I'm like, I get it.
Yes. Yeah. Actually, I think it doesn't mimic more Aliens than Alien. I forget, because one is in space and one is more on a planet. I can't remember which is which. Though, right?
They both take place on a planet, but it's more Aliens. It's a little bit more Alien. The sequel. Alien 2,
sequel,
whatever.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Very, very Aliens.
Yeah. Which I, watching it, I didn't really pick, I sort of got to a little bit at, not right away. I wasn't, because I was in Star Trek. I was, I wasn't thinking about other franchises. I mean, I think it really
immediately. I was like, oh my God,
oh, well, that is actually like 20 minutes into the episode. So you can get yourself into the story pretty far and not realize that you're sort of reliving Alien or Aliens, and until you meet this girl and her very strange companion, and then you see what happens in sickbay, right? So you don't like, so it's that piece of that part of the story. But before that, you hear like little clang, Spock hearing clanging in the shafts. You hear all this creepy stuff. You see blood, you see these, frozen bodies, you see all kinds of stuff that is not necessarily reminiscent of Aliens. It's not like you have no idea. We have no idea what we're going into.
No, yeah, no, I agree. Once we reach the girl and Buckley starts to, he starts to like shake violently, I'm like, I really got, it hit me that it was Aliens. Which happens to be one of my favorite sci-fi movies. So,
okay.
Yeah, I've seen it quite a number of times. So I was just like, okay, all right, let's scale back on the
Speaking
copy.
Of which, can we see, are those on any streaming platforms now that I think about it?
Aliens? Maybe it might be. I think it might be on Hulu actually, but
okay,
it's been a while.
Well, let me know. I now I have a feeling for watching this.
Excellent movie.
One or both.
So good. It's either on Hulu or HBO Max. Anyway, I really did like the beginning of this episode with the whole briefing in Pike's quarters.
With the breakfast and everything.
I want Captain Pike to cook for me. I mean,
absolutely.
And apparently he's just a great cook, and he loves cooking, and I just really like the feel of the scene. It was very just warm, and it was like a family meeting, and
it was like very much like a family meeting. Yeah,
and I really like that. And we get a little bit of that, and we mentioned this before. We get a little bit of that with Sisko. He'll cook in his quarters, and he'll invite the crew over. But here, it's like I feel we get a lot of that. Like we get a lot of that.
Well, it's been a theme throughout this whole season, right? As a lot of Captain's Dinner in episode 2. So we get a lot, and even from then on, you have a lot of meetings in the captain's room, in the captain's quarters.
He has a space for it. He has a space to host.
He does. And his fireplace is amazing.
He's a fireplace. I can't.
He does. It's crazy.
It's ridiculous.
Fire on the Enterprise. That sort of goes against everything.
Seems dangerous, but
yes.
Sure.
Anyway, so I agree that opening is very warm compared to what we go to an ice planet where the Peregrine is crashed down. almost a la like Discovery at the beginning of season 3, right? When they crash on the ice planet and the alien fungus sort of gets to it. So yeah,
the parasitic ice, whatever,
parasitic ice.
whatever
Thank
shit
you.
that is, whatever.
Yes, the
but
parasitic ice.
But I love the tone that Pike just sets for his crew.
Yes, I agree. Yes,
it
it is a
so
great.
much. It does so much.
And
for the
he
show.
lets them. So this is the other thing about Pike that I really like, and sort of I was like, he's not getting mad at these guys for getting mad at each other. Like Sam is going after Spock,
so fucking
which I
annoying.
thought,
Sam Kirk was so
which I
fucking
thought was
annoying.
a little extra.
Is it extra? It is extra. And Sam Kirk is just. I don't feel that they've done Sam Kirk a disservice actually on this season. He's just kind of he's either being dumb like episode 2 on the comet and he just touches things he shouldn't, or he is kind of nervous and scared. We got that one scene in the mess hall where we're talking to Uhura and he's talking about Lon and he's like, oh, hey, conflict, bye bitches. And in this episode he's just like freaking out. I'm like, I don't understand. He can be more professional.
Yeah. And Pike is pretty chill about it. He's pretty calm about it and letting them kind of blow off steam and then pulls it back together, but he doesn't reprimand a lot, at least not in public, which is a good policy to have, right, as a captain. But it does seem a little extreme, like trying to, but conflict is healthy. People are not meant to always get along, but anyway, so there's that piece, that's, interesting to kind of observe him as a well-rounded leader, a leader, not leadership, but as a well-rounded leader. So it's very interesting. This whole, I get that they obviously got to reuse all the sets and just make them dark and scary and but it's just and it's properly creepy. It is properly creepy. After you lose, who is the first to go? Was it the first one to go was the ensign in
I don't remember her name. Sorry,
ensign.
Yes, she gets mauled, basically.
Yes.
Poor. Wait, she's not even.
She does really.
She's still a cadet.
Oh,
she's like a fourth level. But
she dies quickly.
Yeah, just like goes for the jugular, I guess. I don't know.
I guess, yeah. I mean, yeah, it's pretty crazy. So then things kind of take a turn for like, oh shit, and Chapel gets freaked out and like somehow the ship doesn't have power, but the emergency medical force field works in the CMO's office. So we'll just jump up on there on the desk and like be in the protection there, which I thought was oddly uncharacteristic of her.
I mean, this is a pretty extraordinary situation. I would be screaming and running around like a crazy person.
But yes,
but that's normal. But this is a very unusual situation. She's not used to aliens popping out of patients and killing people.
She didn't see what happened. All she sees is the 2 bodies on the floor. I don't know if she immediately and then she hears things.
She sees them scurrying around. No, she actually does. She comes and she sees the last 2 aliens pop out. Actually, I've just rewatched.
Oh, okay.
She does see them pop out.
Got it.
The initial ones pop out, and then Buckley dies, and then Cadet, whatever her name is, dies, and then Chapel comes and like, what's going on? And she sees the last 2 pop out because there are 4 come out.
Right. Yep.
And then she's like, oh my God.
Yeah. And somehow I don't even know the girl's name, but she runs away. She sees it happening. So she's clearly saw this before.
Newt. Let's just call her Newt. I don't remember her name.
Sure, we'll call her Newt. She's seen this happen before.
She's not helpful. She's not.
No,
I'm
she's
like,
not.
Okay, so there was one scene. I just rewatched it today, so it's very fresh in my mind. Okay. So there was one scene where M'Benga is scanning Newt and Buckley, and La'an comes and is like, why don't you say something like to the girl, right? And then this is
Right,
when
right,
Mbenga
yes.
is like, stop bothering my daughter because he, whatever.
Right. He has
He's protective.
There's a little bit of flashback there.
So I do not love the scene because, first of all, these medical professionals, we know from the captain's log that the medical scanners did not detect the Gorn in the first place, the Gorn eggs in the first place. That was left behind. We know this information. So I'm like, okay, you're doing these scans, you're not detecting anything, but we already know that your scans might mean nothing. So why don't you take extra precautions and put them in a force field or put them in stasis? Because you need to do something more extensive because your normal scans aren't going to do shit. So it kind of bothered me that they weren't taking extra precautions around this whole issue. And then when La'an comes and is like pestering Newt with these questions, Mbenga steps in as being really protective. I'm like, okay, I know you're trying to be protective, but there's not like La'an's questions are valid. Like, there are questions that this girl knows more than she's giving on. Not that she should interrogate the girl, but it's like, okay, but she knows more than she's offering, so don't just stop her. Like, La'an's being overly aggressive and Mbenga's being overly protective, and at the end, first of all, they should have done more extensive scans or taken extra precautions, but then it's like, all right, like their feelings were getting in the way from disaster happening. So
yeah. I thought that was their interaction. Yes, I figured, yes. Now, and we've talked about Sam now. Everyone's really on heightened alert.
Right.
And this is before they even know what's going on. Like before they figure out it's Gorn. Like everyone's just on edge right from the beginning. So it's just it's weird to see these characters in this sort of this level. I mean, and in fact,
they need Ripley. They need Ripley to sort things out, basically.
Yeah, I mean, who does figure this out? I can't even remember. It's
mostly La'an. La'an is the one that like helps to kind of piece things together and help to work with the rest of the crew to formulate the strategy to trap the Gorn.
Right.
Because she knows like, oh, they're going to fight for dominance. Like we should take advantage of that because she has that experience. So
right.
She's basically Ripley in the situation, and she's the one with the like, we need to kill them, So she's the one that kind of as level-headed as she can be, is the one that's like, we need to fuck them over, So
yeah,
she's kind of taking that hardcore role that Ripley does.
Yes, yeah, that's true. Yeah, because Spock isn't really doing anything. Hemmer is down in engineering trying to fix things, I guess.
And then comms were down. So comms were down, but I'm like, why don't you use communicators? That was confusing because things were happening on the ship, comms weren't available, and they didn't really start to communicate and be like, hey, everyone get to sick bay, watch your back, until they were able to restore power. But I'm like, they have communicators. I'm not sure why. There were some like logistical things with this episode, which I feel happens with horror movies or horror episodes where it's like dumb things are being done so that, we can have the situation.
Yeah. I was kind of curious about that too a little bit. I forgot about the communicators, but I just figured it was a whole planet blackout or whatever. Or but our cell phones aren't gonna, our cell phones wouldn't work.
But I feel they would act like walkie-talkies, like the communicators.
Oh, they could. I would assume so. That's true.
They can't talk to the Enterprise because of the atmosphere, but I feel locally they should be able to talk to each other. I don't know.
Yeah, there should be something. But anyway, that's neither here nor there. So yeah, I mean, the chase scene and how they set everything up, and Mbenga and Pike go to the bridge to kind of monitor everything from there. That all happens, and somewhere along the line, I forget, is it when Hemmer and everyone are coming back to sickbay that he gets squirted? Or
isn't he and Uhura about to just leave engineering and congregate in sickbay, but then one of the Gorn babies. At that
Gets
point,
him.
it's like grown 10 times and it sprays him.
Yeah. So, which we think is just like acid. We sort of just don't think anything of it, really.
Yeah, he was like, it burns, but I'm fine.
Yeah. So it's really, so we do sort of learn something eventually about how they reproduce by the end of this, but
Sure.
yeah, it's so, and I think the goodbye scene, like after they finish off the Gorn, which I loved Lon getting out of her cube there, whatever she was in, and like beating the crap out of the frozen Gorn. Like that was amazing. And then to couple that with Hemmer saying, no, we can't, and he somehow locks out the doors, so they can't stop him.
I think he either locked the doors. I didn't read the message on the screen that Pike was looking at. I think it's either there was a malfunction to the cargo bay, or like
I think it was locked out. I think he
locked
locked
out.
them out so that no one could stop him. So,
But do you think that
obvious-
La'an knew that Hemmer? This was unclear to me. La'an seems to know that this is how the Gorn reproduce. So she knew that Hemmer was going to, that this was going to happen to Hemmer.
I don't know that she knew. She may have suspected, and then it could have been just
Maybe
a
she
matter
deduced
of,
by the end or something.
yeah, by
that
the
this was
end
the
of how
situation.
this all happened. So yeah, I mean, I think she's slowly unpacking her trauma, right? It's not something, she's only remembering this piecemeal and may never have seen how they reproduce, or it's locked away so far away in her
But she
mind.
knows things like whole, like, oh, they're gonna fight to be the alpha. Like she knew a lot of these details.
Yeah, she knew the post-birth what would happen, which is interesting. So again, being on the planet and seeing that, so do all, how do the like, so when you have, it doesn't make any sense, because
like, do they mate? Like, because these babies are the ones that are spraying. So I'm like, wait, I don't understand at what point, because at least in Aliens, there's a very specific cycle. Like they've established the whole queen cycle and the eggs and the face huggers. Like it's a very complex cycle, actually. But the Gorn, I'm not quite sure, because literally the babies, it's been like 20 minutes since the babies busted out of Buckley and Hemmer got sprayed. Like at what point did they mate and whatnot? That part's a little bit fuzzy.
Yeah, we don't know how long. That's the other thing about this whole episode. We don't know how long this is all taking. But
it hasn't been like days. It's been maybe like an hour.
No,
like on screen time it's like 20 minutes or something, but
yeah,
maybe it's a couple hours max.
Yeah, I think it's hours more than like minutes. But yeah, so it's just, I have some thoughts and questions about that, but I don't think we're going to get the answer to that. We didn't get the answer to that, but
and then like La'an is like, if there's an adult, there's no way we are going to be able to handle it. And I'm like, but what about Arena? Like Kirk, there was this really slow moving Gorn. It was like one-on-one. There's like, if this is how the Gorn actually are, there's like no way that Kirk could have beaten the Gorn in that episode.
I feel like they sort of already retconned that a little bit with Enterprise, right? Didn't they have the Gorn on the Enterprise at some point?
So on Enterprise, so Mirror Archer was able to beat it. Like he had some help because they were able to, he had them increase gravity, so the Gorn wasn't able to get up, and he was able to kill the Gorn, but he was still able to kind of more or less hold his ground until that point.
Okay.
So I was like, if the babies are so fast that they can barely handle like the babies, I don't know how Kirk could have possibly handled like an adult.
Well,
makes sense. It doesn't.
Yeah,
really
but
make
it's
sense.
I mean, yeah. Anyway, I'm not going to get lost in the rabbit hole of trying to understand TOS from the 50 plus years later, and how things have changed. So yeah, I mean, I thought it was I thought it was a very kind, I thought Hemmer had a nice farewell scene.
Yeah, that was good. That's good. It was effective. I just wish I just wish we got more of Hemmer up to this point, because
Yes,
we
I
still don't
agree.
know
Yeah.
that much about him,
Yeah,
unfortunately.
we didn't see him in all the episodes of the season, so yes, it wasn't. Yeah, it definitely, this was no Arium issue, fortunately, but it is an issue with not knowing and wanting more from a character and not being able to get it. So,
Right. We haven't talked about Spock that much because he has a little bit of a character arc here, as well as Chapel. And I don't feel they're letting go of this Spock Chapel tension, which we had mentioned. Oh, we were hoping that they could move on, but I don't feel we're moving on.
yeah, I mean, yeah, I agree. Like, I don't feel like we're moving on, but it seemed like obviously Spock released a part of his emotions in order to survive, which
Sure.
would make a lot of sense in that sort of situation. So there's that. And then, I think that the only person that could console him or could talk to him about what's going on with him is Chapel. I mean, they do have an existing friendship prior to the whole kiss and whatnot. So
Sure.
there is that piece of it. He has gone to her for advice before several times now. So it is, I think it's appropriate because they, and again, this was a traumatic situation that happened, and trauma brings people together. Fortunately or unfortunately. And
Yeah. It's just that they had that moment where they hugged
yes.
and they looked at each other. I'm like, oh my God, are they gonna kiss? Like, what's happening? I feel we're being teased continuously a little bit in terms of how far they're gonna take it. And
I think there was some teasing, but
because
I
it was
also
very
think,
emotional. It was an emotional moment. I thought it was effective. I thought it worked really well, given the headspace that Spock was in. But their faces were very close to each other. I was like, oh my God, like what's happening? So,
yeah, I think personally that was just the release of the emotions and what's going on with Spock, and his loss of control is
but his
playing
loss
into
of
that.
control with anger could also bubble over into his other emotions, right? That's the
No,
thing.
I agree. That's what I'm saying. Like I see that as a problem. Like his loss of emotion is sort of that issue, like the
Catalyst.
catalyst. Thank you. So yeah, but I mean that's sort of the end of it for the season. So
For now, yes.
we'll see. We'll see
We'll
what
get more. I'm
happens.
sure we'll get Edge a little bit more in season 2.
Well,
but
I hope that we get more from the other characters that we don't know much about, like
yes,
Ortegas.
I need more of Ortegas.
Yes,
more of Erica, please.
Yes. And obviously, we're gonna have a new engineer.
Correct.
It's we're gonna have potentially a part. Spock is either gonna step up and be number 1, or we're gonna have a new number 1 for part of the season. So this is going to be interesting, and so yeah, it's quite a lot of change and quite a lot of this felt like a season finale in a lot of ways.
It did, yeah, because it's oftentimes in these season finales where people disperse a little bit, and they go on some different paths, and it's like, oh my God, are they going to come back together? And they usually do. Yeah, but it did.
I feel like they could have tacked on the Una piece onto this episode, and that would have been it. And like you could have had this movie length special episode, Equality of Mercy, which I think we should get into. But I think that the only piece of that, the puzzle from 109 being the finale, is the fact that Una also gets taken away, so which is the end of episode 10. So
right.
Yeah, I was shocked by I'm still shocked by like how that all got out. Like how did that get out? But anyway,
what get out? What?
How did Una's information get out?
Oh, I'm sure we'll learn more in season 2.
So I'm hoping it's not from La'an, because she's really.
No, I don't think so.
I don't know. Like being
they're friends. I don't think so.
Yes, they are friends, but that Lan can be very legalistic, and she felt betrayed by Una not sharing this knowledge with her previously. So I think there's a potential for that possibly to be part of that. But anyway, anything else about 109 you think we should talk
I think
about?
that a lot of people knew, though. I mean, La'an, Pike, Chapel, Mabenga, and who knows who else was in sick bay when she was talking about it.
Right.
So I could see what you mean about La'an, though, because they did have like a moment in that episode, but the Leary episode, but
which makes me think that
so.
La'an might go to the Farragut and with Kirk go and like rescue Una, like, and that might be that whole like piece of that possibly, because they, the speculation is that they were outside of the Noonien Sung Institute or something like this on wherever they were.
Wait, what are you talking about?
So the set reports when they told us about Kirk being in the show were that Kirk and La'an were on some planet in some street, and down the street from them was like the Noonien Singh Institute.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, I haven't heard about those.
Yeah. So maybe that's where Una is being kept, and they are going to rescue her. So,
though I do have to say, like, the Federation, and we get a little bit of this. I don't really get the whole penal colony situation, because Tom Paris was also, I think he was being sent to a penal colony. I'm like, why are penal colonies still a thing in the Federation? That's very odd to me. And I'm thinking penal colony as in it's like literally you're like laboring, you're a laborer, and you're stuck. I'm thinking Rural Pente, because that's like, probably the most popular penal colony in Star Trek history. But I'm like, why does the Federation use penal colonies? That seems just like so backwards. Is that the best way to like punish Federation citizens for violating whatever? Like, does it seem so backwards and old-fashioned? I don't know.
I mean, it's, there is the need for prisoning people who have broken the law.
Prison's one thing. A penal colony, it's like, I'm thinking like physical labor. Like they're just like you're being punished actively. It's not just like, oh, you have the opportunity to reintegrate into society, because most prisons supposedly there's like the hope is that you can integrate, right? But like penal colony, like you're stuck there and you're like cutting rocks. I don't know. So,
I don't know. Right, we'll find out more about it next season. Which that is actually the only bit of news that we did have this week, was that season 2 wrapped production. Yes, so we did have that happen last week. So
cool. All right. Well, anything else about All Those Who Wander before we get into the season finale?
No, let's talk about this season finale.
Okay,
Let us
great.
talk about
Okay.
Let us talk about Pike in a Red Admiral's uniform from the movie franchise, please.
Cool.
Sorry. It's just this room brings back a lot of memories.
Is this some kind of
Joke? No.
How am I supposed to believe
That I'm really you.
You ever gonna let me get a word in edgewise?
I knew you were gonna say that. Does that help?
I've been doing this long enough that I'm not just gonna take the word of somebody who shows up in my cabin and says he's future me.
Your first pony was named Sir Naze-a-Lot.
He broke his leg in a rainstorm. Your parents had to put him down and you cried for a week.
You ever tell anybody that?
It's hard when your tragic backstory starts with
My silly name. Sorry. Look, I'm here because that letter you're about to write is going to wreck the future.
How why?
2 cadets die in that accident 7 years from now. Ma'at is one of them. You're trying to figure out how to save the cadets and yourself. And you do. We do. You write to all of them, tell them not to be there that day. But like so much of this time-bending stuff, there are unforeseen consequences.
Well, how bad can it be if I figure out a way to save all the cadets and myself?
Hell, isn't you standing here evidence that I pull it off? Yes. And that's the problem. Causality is complex. The letter is just the first domino to fall in a chain reaction of events that leads to catastrophic results. It alters the future in ways that we never intended to change.
You sound like one of those Klingon monks from Borath.
Who do you think sent me? They gave me something to show you.
So let's talk a little bit about the season finale of Strange New Worlds, A Quality of Mercy. What did you think about this episode when you first watched it? And I know you've only watched it once. I've
only watched it once. And you watched it before. I was watching Severance at the time,
Yes,
so we got the screeners, and you were like,
yes.
Jonathan, watch it. I was like, oh, I will. Don't worry, I will.
Yes.
I loved this finale. It was so good. And it was also nice because we went into it not knowing anything. They have released trailers for this already, and if you're astute enough, you don't even need to be that astute, but you can watch a trailer that, there's a lot of references to Balance of Terror. So, we went into it not knowing anything.
You're right. That's actually, so I'm thinking of Errand of Mercy, which is not yes, it's Balance of Terror is my.
Oh, okay. I was
yes. This is the retelling of Balance of Terror.
Balance of Terror.
Yeah.
So we went into it not knowing anything, zero, right?
Yeah.
So
we know nothing.
I was like, what? I was just like, this is crazy. And we did not expect, one thing that they have not spoiled is that this is where we get Kirk. And I was like, what? Because obviously in all the PR, they said that, what's his face? Paul Wesley. Sorry, it took me a second. That Paul Wesley would be joining in season 2 as Kirk. So that was what I was expecting. Yep. I did not expect to get Paul Wesley as James Kirk in this episode.
No, so they did a great job of keeping this a secret.
That was like
to them.
Total shock. And then the way that they just framed this episode around Balance of Terror and the time travel. Time travel stories, you can argue the significance of them and like ultimately how much impact it has, but from a character point of view, and also how this really ties the season together in terms of Pike's journey, in terms of grappling with his future. I think that it really wrapped the season up well, because we get further resolution to that journey of his, where he has not only accepted, but he's embracing his future and his fate. And I just think that it was just a really, really, really well done episode. There are like minor qualms about it, but like I think overall it was just a very, very strong season 1 ender. And yeah, I was just, I was just like very surprised and taken aback by how well done it was, the surprises we got, and it was great. I loved it.
Yeah, I agree. This was an awesome episode. I loved it the second time watching it through again. It's it's again, the focus of this episode is Pike. I mean, it bookends the opening, it bookends the season premiere very nicely.
Yes.
And his journey, because I think it's the end of the season premiere that he's looking through the Federation records and looking at all these people, and this episode brings that right back around.
Yes.
And it's interesting that I think Una is sort of the one that prompts him, like, oh, you can still rewrite your history, even though I think deep down inside he has known that he couldn't. And he was very specifically told that he couldn't, like, this is his fate.
But then it's interesting because this episode posits that he could, if he really wanted to. It would just have ramifications. And fate kind of has it kind of personifies fate in a way where it's like, if you do this, it will have this impact on the people around you, and millions are going to die, and you, in order for there to be a peaceful future, you need to embrace your fate. So I feel there is still, it's a constant question about fate versus free will, right? Like I think that's always like that's what this episode is trying to kind of put out there, because we kind of get the idea that there is free will involved, that he could change his future. It just would have these issues, the issues would come out of it.
Yeah, and I think it's not even so. Initially, you're kind of told it affects millions of people. Pike from the future, Admiral Pike, does not tell Captain Pike that the one piece of information that he could have not necessarily stopped this whole journey, because I still think Captain Pike needed to go through this journey, but the fact that it impacts Spock is the critical. Like, it's not about the millions who die, it's literally the decision, the tipping point for Captain Pike, is that his fate is passed on to Spock.
Right.
And it's clear from Admiral Pike that Spock had a future and will have a future that greatly impacts the galaxy at large. A much greater fate than a greater promise or whatever it is than Pike himself has. So I think the tipping point for this, the beginning of this episode, really is that he meets the one kid who's going to die. One of the two kids who are going to die,
who don't make it.
So I think there's that. I think it's less about his own fate and the fact that he's meeting someone who technically dies in his future. And so that's sort of the tipping point for the episode. I think that it's interesting that Admiral Pike brings a time crystal from Bora that the Klingons sent him, which is very interesting. So there must have been some, in this alternate timeline, there must be some sort of threat to Borath from the Romulans that makes this imperative enough for Borathian Klingons to send Admiral Pike back in time to his younger self. So I think that's a fascinating piece of this episode. I love how once he touches the crystal, we jump to the wedding of these two crewmen, and we're instantly like, once you get there and once you piece.
I did rewatch Balance of Terror, by the way, and it's funny that it starts with this wedding.
Yes. So once you jump there, you know where you are and what's happening here. And
I didn't remember the wedding from the episode because
it's been
ages since I've seen Balance of Terror.
No, when the minute I saw that and put together who was being married and all of that, I was like, I know this is it. Like, this is Pike stays the captain of the Enterprise. Kirk is not the captain of the Enterprise. This is where things go off the rails. And so it's just really interesting that this is where it starts. One of my favorite parts of this episode is my favorite pieces of this episode is the lighting is so well done in this episode. And if you pay attention, like, it mimics Balance of Terror so well.
Okay, I need to rewatch that episode.
Yeah, you need to pay attention to the lighting on the Balance of Terror episode.
Well, I remember the lighting in Balance of Terror because I just rewatched it, and there's a lot of light shining on the eye area.
Yes. So
to the point where it was kind of distracting. I was like,
but it's such a homage to Balance of Terror.
That's great.
It's so great.
I did notice that we do not get Lieutenant Styles, but Erica basically takes his place.
Yep, he does.
Where in Balance of Terror, Erica isn't as racist towards Spock as Styles is. That was one thing that was really annoying about Styles, where he kept on going after Spock. I was like, all right, I get it. You don't trust him. I get it.
But I feel like I thought Erica did a great job with that.
Erica was just very aggressive.
Yeah.
Similar to how Styles was in terms of we need to blow them out of the sky. We need, revenge. Which was Styles's whole shtick. Like, he was he was probably the most aggressive person on the bridge in terms of how they should be going after.
Well, and Styles has a family history with the Romulan War. So that's sort of missing from this episode. In that way, but I think Erica takes up the the torch for that pretty well.
Yes.
So-
She's basically sitting where he
Yes.
was.
Yeah. So yeah, she's suddenly at the navigation.
Yeah, they switched their because
they switched. So
yeah,
it's
that's
very
interesting.
Yeah. And then you get Spock calling down to the captain, number one, to Captain Pike, and it's Spock's voice, and you're like, whoa, like.
But I do have a question, because when I watched this episode, I felt that there was something very off about the relationships. Obviously, it's been 7 years, but there was this more, I don't know what it was. It was just like there was like tension between Spock and Pike. There was tension between Erica and Pike. Like there was just something off about the relationships I couldn't really put a finger on, where it just felt very stiff, and as if there was some, and they never revealed any sort of, falling out or anything like that. But I just felt that it was just, something was different about the relationships.
I was aware. I did see that, and I sort of mimic that to the Spock in 7 years. Kirk's Spock, for lack of a better word, is a different Spock. Like he's a Spock who's been through the whole T'Pring Stan, thing on the planet. So who knows how that has affected him. He could have gone through partial Kolinahr. He's very much not. He's very serious. He's a very serious Spock.
Mhm.
So there's that. I think that Erica sort of inhabits the Styles character and the traits. Also, it would seem like she may have been demoted from pilot to navigator. I don't know. So there could be that. I don't know.
Wait, is that console? Isn't
that's
Helms
navigation?
Is it?
Yeah.
So the
Pilot
right
is
side. So the right side, isn't the right side weapons? Sorry, I don't know the.
It is.
configuration.
It is weapons, but it's also like navigation. I mean, if you think about the JJJ, JJJ.
What is the JJJ?
JJ Abrams, or if you think about even is it Star Trek 6, where the stations are labeled, navigation is always on the right side. So it's navigator on the right, pilot on the left, or
Is that
helm on the
demotion
left.
though? I don't know. Is that
I
demotion?
don't know.
She's a
I don't
lieutenant.
know. I'm suppositioning that there's been some, like, she's done
In
something wrong.
Erica felt different.
Yeah.
Like she felt different, and her relationship with Pike felt different. I kind of want to know more, but I don't know if we're gonna get it.
No, we're not gonna get it. No,
I was hoping we would get a little bit of that, but
I think they just applied a lot of the Styles mentality to her character. Although
because there was one point where they were literally like going at each other on the bridge because Erica was being aggressive, and Pike was like, "Stand down!" Like, and he was very, very stern, more stern than usual. And I thought, whoa, there's like a lot of tension.
Well, that same
them.
scene in Balance of Terror, I think Kirk relieves Styles from his post, sends him and confines him to his quarters.
Does he? I don't recall that. He did go to the phaser room to help out because they were having issues.
After he was dismissed from his
post. Oh,
his post. Yeah,
I fell asleep during Balance of Terror with watching.
Yeah,
it's a little slow. It's like there's a lot of it's a cat and mouse. It's very cat and mousey.
It is,
but
yes.
It's
one of my favorite episodes. No, I mean I have to go back and watch it.
I mean, the pacing of TOS, the storytelling is just very different from what we get now.
Oh, sure, of course, yeah.
So I was just like watching, and I literally did fall asleep at some point, so I did miss a couple of things. For TOS, it's a very good episode, but it's still, I mean, there are certain points where it drags on a little bit. They kind of drag on the cat and mouse game probably a little too long, in my opinion. But again, storytelling in the 60s was very different.
Yes, absolutely. So I think that's what that's about. Like that, you missed that scene where he's
relieved from his post.
Yes,
not confined to quarters necessarily. But
I mean, he's sent to his quarters, but he's not escorted by security, if I'm remembering it correctly. And
I don't remember that.
On his way to his quarters, and he hears the call to phaser room, and then that's how he, like, no one's responding.
I don't remember. I was asleep.
Yes, clearly. That's what I remember, and I have not watched it probably in a couple of years. Although
Okay.
maybe I watched it during the pandemic at some point.
I don't
I
know.
probably did.
I don't know. I can't help you. In
So
any case,
anyway,
yes.
so yeah, so the lighting is amazing throughout this episode. It's very different. You can tell that this is a very different time. I mean, it definitely contributes to the ambiance of the episode.
Mhm.
Um,
And the
it's-
music was
yeah, the
total
music
callback.
is a lot of callback to the music as well. I mean, it's just it really is. This is so well written and so well rewritten. Per
We haven't even
se.
talked about that much about Jim Kirk yet.
No, I'm still actually, before we were recording, I was sort of thinking about that this afternoon a little bit, and I was like, I'm still not there with him being Jim Kirk. I'm just,
Paul
like
Wesley.
I'm
I
just not
see.
there. I'm just not there yet, Um, I was totally on board with Chris Pine in the movies, but I'm just not there yet. And
Well, Chris Pine.
and
The thing about Chris Pine is that he played a different Jim Kirk. Like one that lost his dad. He didn't have to necessarily emulate William Shatner's Jim Kirk because he was much more of a rebel, versus Jim Kirk in the prime timeline is much more of he's an overachiever. He's a bookworm. He is willing to bend the rules, but it's also very respectful of like how things are supposed to be done. He has a bit of that cowboy diplomacy, whatever, but he's more of he's an overachiever, and he's like a very young captain or whatever. So
I would say he's a very inexperienced young captain in this episode, and I didn't appreciate him bursting into Pike's quarters and like calling him on, like hesitating for a second. I'm like, really? Like, that's a little bit brash. I mean, that is Kirk, but that's brash.
Right. Yes.
But yeah, I'm just not there yet. It doesn't mean that I won't get there. I mean, it's clear that we're gonna see him in season 2 as well. So I'm just not there yet. So it's a little bit.
It didn't bother me. It didn't bother me that much.
I was just
I was more just taken aback that we even saw him, that he was even in the episode.
I was definitely shocked by the reveal that he was in this episode. I just am not quite there. Like, it's like taking that picture that the promotional picture, and like putting that into real life, like seeing him in a promotional spot versus seeing him act and play the part is a very different situation. And so I'm just, I'm sure I'll get there. I had a crush on Paul Wesley, so it's not like I'm not fond of him as an actor. So as a good-looking guy, so I'm just not there yet that he's Kirk, but I'm sure I'll get there because it's clear that we're going to see him again.
Yes, but as a lieutenant on the Farragut.
Yes. So anyway, so there's that piece of it. Pike's trying to piece all of this together as he's kind of going along, but he does have a very distinct leadership style, and I feel like he stays pretty consistent with that throughout. Like, how, despite these new circumstances, he very much. But I think the problem here is that he's playing his 7-year younger self, and I think that those 7 years may have, had he, I obviously that it all happened as it happened because Admiral Pike came back, but whether what he saw played out as it did for Admiral Pike is still, for me, a question, because I mean the ultimate outcome is the same, but I think that for me, having a 7-year younger Pike playing in that role in that timeline doesn't necessarily take into account all the things that have happened in those 7 years, like which may explain how like Spock and Erica interact with him very differently than what we're and he's not that person yet. So it's just, that sort of thing. But he does have his very distinct, he's a very thoughtful commander. He is a very methodical, not cautious, but just very he's aware that his actions have consequences.
Mhm.
And he takes it step by step by step, and I think that that's a very impressive way to be a leader. But
Sure.
I think in this case, you needed something, as we saw in Balance of Terror, you needed something you needed sort of a different take on it,
Yeah,
like
well, I think that's the thing, because you were saying that Jim Kirk as a young captain in where we would be in this point in history, he's more brash. He's willing to. The thing about Pike, and I think what the balance of the decision is, Pike is going to opt to make peace versus Kirk,
Right.
who is like, okay, like he took Spock's recommendation, which is like, no, we need to be aggressive, actually.
Yeah,
Which
yeah.
is normally for a Starfleet captain would not be their go-to route. But they most Starfleet captains that we know and love, they probably would try to take the diplomatic peace route. But in this case, we needed Kirk to make that call to be like, okay, no, we will actually attack them and get them before they reach neutral zone. So
Right, yeah.
I think in this case, that's the whole thing. It's like, Kirk, like Pike totally stuck with his MO, like what he would usually do. I see what you're saying, but even within 7 years, I would think that he's still in the mindset that peace is possible.
Yeah,
Which is
that's
very
true.
true to his character. But the thing is, I think that's the thing. In this situation, they needed a different call to be made.
Yeah. Yep. No, I agree with all of that. So I did enjoy seeing, we mentioned it before, I did enjoy seeing the feature version of Lon.
Yes.
That was nice.
And then we get the whole mystery drop that basically Una has been in a penal colony for 7 years and no one has had contact with her.
Right. Yes.
I am confused about the timing of the incident in which shit goes down with Pike, because I feel at the beginning of the season it was like 10 years, and then in this episode we're like, it's 7 years in the future. I'm like, wait, I thought it was 10 years. So the timing was I'm also not sure what year it is right now, and I'm not sure what year the incident happens, but I swear we talked about it being a decade in the future, and now it's been shortened to 7 years in the future. I don't know if you caught that.
I did. I think that a decade was always just like a general term. And
7 years and 10 years seems very different when you're talking about like
I don't
the
disagree.
quote unquote end of your life. But
yeah,
whatever.
I don't disagree, but I think I think it was always 7 years. I think that they had mentioned 10 years, and I think they kind of stuck with that a little bit, but in reality,
they mentioned it a few times.
No, but I think,
and I was like, what? I thought we had more time. No.
Yeah, no, I think no, it always was like it was definitely less than 10 years. Yeah, I mean, it just
7 years just seems like much shorter now. I'm like, shit, 7 years.
Yeah, I
Whatever.
mean,
it's fine.
Yeah, I mean, it could be close to 8 years, and then it's minus 6 months because Spock said, I think that accident happened 6 months ago, and no one was hurt because no one was there or whatnot. So,
right. Oh my god.
So yeah, I mean, it's yeah. So it is, honestly though, the way that the show is done, it could be episodic for 10 years and still not get to that time. 10 years our time could only and only be done in 7 years their time. So I don't know, you know what I mean? Like we could get 10 more years of Strange New Worlds with Pike.
Sure, because time is relative. They can do whatever.
Yeah.
Yes.
Right. So anyway.
So yes, I'm trying to think what else about this episode. The blowing up of Outpost 4, is that Outpost 4 was it looked great. But I thought that the battle between the Romulan Warbird and the Farragut and the Enterprise didn't look as great. It looked a little cartoony to me, but I don't know if you noticed that. The Farragut didn't look that great, actually, to me. Like I don't think it was like rendered very well. And it was a little distracting, but overall, thought it was fine.
Yeah, so a couple of things about that. So the Farragut, unless this is a different Farragut, so the Farragut in the original series it looks like a Constitution class starship. So they never made a different. They never made a different.
Oh, it
model
looks
for
like
the
a Constitution class?
Yeah, from what
Was
I
it Constitution
remember.
class?
No, I don't know. I mean, I think everything. I don't know. I'm not sure. I can't remember, but then it was never described because this one looked more like a Reliant class.
It did look like Reliant.
Or Miranda class. Miranda class.
I was thinking of Miranda, but they're
Yeah.
similar.
Yeah.
In terms of their secondary hull configuration.
Yeah. So the curve that attaches to the nacelle seems a little weird, but whatever. I mean, yes. But the battle was, I would say, sudden, it was, I don't know.
The comet was cool. I like the comet, and that was perfect. Like we get that in Balance of Terror as well.
Yeah. I thought it was, I thought the battle was a little janky. I'll say that.
It looked a little janky, right? It was like,
but I don't think
janky to me.
Yeah, I think just the way that was, I don't know if it's rendering or whatever part of this it was just very, the speeds didn't match. You know what I mean? Like suddenly, like the way that the Romulans attacked the Enterprise with their plasma weapon, and then suddenly it was like zooming around like an X-wing fighter almost.
But also the plasma weapon, it goes in a straight line. I don't understand why they don't just, because that's also in Balance of Terror. I noticed that as well. They're like trying to run away from it. I'm like, can you like at least go left or something? Because it doesn't look its homing.
So in Balance of Terror, it gets much bigger than we saw on screen in this episode. Like it's all well, I mean, you never really see it on the outside, I guess, but
we only see on the view screen.
You see it on the view screen. It looks like it takes over the entire view screen. So I imagine this super huge thing as it grows. So I think,
but I mean, in this episode, we get, it's like the width of, it's pretty at max the width of the Romulan warbird.
Yeah.
Which you can still, if you turn left, you can avoid it.
Fair enough. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, don't know.
And I also asked you this question. I was like, if this weapon is so effective, I don't know why they ever abandoned it. I know it takes a lot of energy, but
yeah, I think
it's super effective. I'm like, it can basically blow up a space station in 2 shots. Like, why don't they use it more often? Once in a while.
Yeah. Well,
and
so
that's
in
never
Balance
explained.
In Balance of Terror, it was the only ship that had it.
What's that?
Yeah, it was almost like a prototype that on that starship, I think, on that Romulan vessel.
Oh, well.
It wasn't something that was like spread throughout the fleet. Like not every Romulan ship had that weapon. So from what I remember.
I don't.
Maybe I'm making.
You need to rewatch. I don't remember that being mentioned, but I also don't remember. Apparently, I missed key moments of that episode upon rewatch.
Well, the plasma weapon does destroy the Farragut, and that's actually a nice shot because you do see that the
half the saucer's gone.
Yeah, it takes a huge chunk out of the Farragut, so that was a nice effect. Other than that, it's just weird that the way that the Romulan holds still and then it like fires the plasma weapon, but then it like the next shot is like it flying around like super fast and like exchanging phaser fire with the Enterprise. And so it just seemed very disjointed. Like, oh, you have 2 speed, like it just seemed like very different.
I need to rewatch that scene. I did like the standoff between the Federation ships, I guess the mining ships, and the Romulan ships. I thought that was nice. I thought that piece was done well. And and one of the things we haven't even talked about, there's so much to this episode, honestly. We get a lot with, similar to Balance of Terror, we also get a lot with the Romulan crew and the captain on the Romulan end of things. But very similar to Balance of Terror, I liked how we get their perspective and how things kind of work on their end. And there's a little bit of that backstabbing. I also liked how, I don't remember the name of the captain on the Romulan ship, but that similar to the captain in Balance of Terror, that he wouldn't mind if there was peace. and
Right.
he would actually offer it, but that sentiment isn't necessarily shared with his crew. So yeah, I thought that was nice. That was nice to have, again, very similar to that episode, both perspectives and what's going on.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, I think that was really, yeah, that was nice to see that perspective. There's a lot more, I feel, in Balance of Terror versus this one. This is a very Pike centric episode, not a like, it's almost like it's very Pike centric, but then it's the Balance of Terror episode is very like Kirk versus the Romulan captain. Who's actually Mark Leonard, who plays Sarek eventually.
Yes, that I knew.
So that's always cool too. So yeah, there is that piece of that Romulan commander wanting peace.
And did he say the same? Because I'm also complaining Balance of Terror this episode now. Does he also say to Pike at the end, if in another time we could be friends?
I don't know if he says in the Friends piece, but maybe something similar to that, some sort of similar.
I need to rewatch this episode.
As he's about to be destroyed, what's happening? Right. He does say something that's similar to what he says at the end of Balance of Terror, but I don't think it's exactly the same thing, to be honest.
Okay, got it.
So, yeah.
Anyway, a lot of great callbacks, a lot of great moments. I loved it. It was just like overall they took some really big swings with this episode. And again, time travel, it's like at the end of the day, how much lost significance, sure, but some of these time travel episodes are great. It's great.
Yep.
So whatever. Totally.
Yeah. All right. Well, that's a good place to end our discussion of A Quality of Mercy.
You're like, what's the name of this episode again?
I remembered it. I'm sure we'll be talking about this again in the future because it's just such a great episode, and I think it'll have a lot of callbacks that we'll see next season. Obviously, we have the whole question about Una and
La'an.
And who the new chief engineer is going to be, and
we didn't mention it. We got
what happens to her. How does she get back to the Enterprise? So there's a lot of
but we didn't even mention the Scotty sound alike whatever.
Oh yeah, just for that one scene where Spock is in the Jeffries tube trying to fix it. Yeah, you get that. I mean, it's 7 years later, so I mean,
by that time,
Scotty is the engineer. So
I thought that was great. Another unexpected,
kind
of cameo, but not really.
I'm wondering if Jimmy Doohan's son didn't do that. The one who does Star Trek Continues.
Does he sound like his dad?
Yeah, similar. Yeah.
Really? Oh my god, that's funny.
That'd be cool. I can imagine that was probably the case, and they probably did get him, but who knows?
Well, speaking of, we do need a new chief engineer as well, which we did.
We do. I think it's too early for Scotty, so I'm hoping we have something, another alien to replace.
If we get James Kirk, I don't know if it's too early for Scotty. I don't know, because I don't think it was ever established when Scotty actually came on board.
True. Yeah, but I feel like I think one of the beautiful things about this first season was having another alien crew member as part of it, not just Spock. So I'm hoping that we get some intermediary engineer who will be with them for a little bit longer, and maybe they develop this character a little bit more. Maybe even it's going to be what's the actor's name who played him?
Hammer?
Who plays Hammer?
Another blind engineer.
Bruce Horak. Yeah. I'm hoping maybe not blind. He doesn't have to be blind, but he could be, there could be something, some alien that, he could play that would be interesting. I don't know. I hope they bring Bruce Horak back. I think did a great job with Hammer.
Did. Sad that he's
so
gone,
hopefully, hopefully they bring him back for something else. So
cool.
All right, well, there we go.
All right. Well, Mike, do you want to talk a little bit about our sponsor?
Of course I do. Fansets is the premier provider of Star Trek and other sci-fi and fantasy related pin collectibles. And they are the presenting sponsor of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network and Deep Space Pride. And just recently, as of a few days ago, we have new pins for July 1st. And that includes Captain Giorgio, or sorry, Emperor Giorgio from the Women in Trek series. We also have a mini Deep Space Nine Voyager Delta pin. And we have two more of the Prodigy crew, Jankum Pog and Rock Talk pins that are released that you can get individually. So although as of today, July 4th, Rock Talk is sold out, which is not a surprise at all. Being that while we were at Mission Chicago, that was probably the most popular character on Prodigy from everyone 10 and under.
Wait,
if
no,
you ask
not Rock Talk. It was Murph.
Nope, it was
Murph was the most popular.
Oh, Murph was the most. Rock Talk was a close second.
Yeah, Murph was
very
popular.
Murph was very
Kate
popular.
Mulgrew was like, "What's your favorite character, Murph? What's your favorite speaking character, Murph?" Like it was like, okay, got it. We know it's like Murph.
So the only way you can get Rock Talk right now is part of the Series 1, complete Series 1 pin collectibles. I'm sure will restock them, but if you like Rock Talk is also significantly larger than the other pins. So
that makes sense.
Clearly. So, but head on over to Fansets, put a bunch of pins into your cart. If you are in the United States and you put more than $30 in your cart, which is super easy. I mean, this complete Series 1 is on sale for $49.95. So if you buy that, you're getting free shipping. But you can also get 10% off your order if you use the code TrekGeeks, all one word, all caps, at checkout. And we want to thank Fansets for being the premier and presenting sponsor of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network and our tiny little podcast, Deep Space Pride.
Thanks, Fansets. All right. Well, we would also love to hear from all you listeners, all three of you. We'd love to get a review from you if you like our podcast on your podcast platform of choice. And if you want to reach out to us, you can reach out to us on over email at dspacepride@gmail.com. You can also DM us on Twitter and Instagram. I was like, what platforms are you on? Twitter and Instagram at dspacepride. Cool.
There we go. Yeah.
All right.
All right.
Well, that does it for this episode. It's been an awesome season of Strange New World. We're not going to do a season 1 recap because that's going to be too much, but an excellent first season. Really, I don't think there were like any big, like, oh, bad episode, like there were some episodes that were like not as strong, but honestly, overall, love the whole season.
Yeah, fantastic first season.
It feels been a while since I've been able to say that. So
yes, I know. I worry
honest
about going on to other Star Trek because we won't get the happy Johnson loving things.
Happy Johnson.
Not Grumpy Johnson. So
hey, I've said great things about the animated series. This is a live action series that I basically had an issue with every season, but
whatever. Cool. Anyway, this has been a great, I agree. It's been a great season. The cast is amazing. Cannot see what's in store for season 2, which just wrapped. So who knows when we'll see that? Hopefully not too distant future, but we have no idea what's new Star Trek is coming next. So we're just kind of in limbo here. Of course, we record this on July 4th. They will probably announce everything for the rest of this year tomorrow, July 5th. So so you'll have to come back next week to our next episode where we talk about that, maybe, should they announce it on July 5th. So anyway, thanks everyone for listening, and we'll catch you back here next week.
Bye, everyone.
Deep Space Pride is a production of Coconut Media Works. Executive producers Bill Smith and Dan Davidson. For more great Star Trek discussion, discover the other shows of the Trek Geeks Podcast Network at trekgeeks.com or find us in Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcast app.
Coconut.